Welcome back, everyone, to Tell Me More Stories Told Us podcast. Ready to dive into another fascinating topic?
Always excited to dig in. What are we unlocking today?
Well, today we're turning our attention to something we use almost every day, but rarely think twice about. Locks and keys.
Oh, interesting. Locks and keys. Those everyday objects we kind of take for granted.
Exactly. But believe it or not, there's a whole world of history and ingenuity hidden within those simple mechanisms.
I'm intrigued already. Where do we even begin with something like that? It seems so, well, basic at first glance.
You'd be surprised. I mean, we're talking about a history that spans thousands of years, all the way back to ancient civilizations.
Wow, thousands of years. So like way before smartphones and all that.
Way before. We're talking about a time when securing your belongings was a much more hands-on affair.
Makes you appreciate the convenience of a good deadbolt, doesn't it? So tell me, where does this story begin?
Well, our journey starts in the ancient city of Nineveh. Archaeologists unearthed a lock there that's estimated to be over 6,000 years old.
6,000 years old. That's incredible. Older than the pyramids, right?
Older than the pyramids. It really puts things into perspective.
It does. To think that people were already concerned about security that long ago.
It's a fundamental human need, isn't it? To protect what's important to us.
Mm.
And the ancient Egyptians took it seriously, too.
Oh, yeah. What did they do?
Well, they developed these ingenious wooden pin locks, a mechanism that, believe it or not, still bears a resemblance to some of the locks we use today.
No way. Really? So that basic design has been around for centuries.
It has. It's a testament to the enduring principles of security. But hey, speaking of ancient locks, have you ever heard of the drunk man's lock?
The drunk man's lock. That's a new one. Tell me more.
Well, this lock hails from ancient Belgium, and it was specifically designed with a keyhole that could be easily found in the dark.
Haha. That's amazing. Sounds like they were solving a problem we still deal with today.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't fumbled for their keys after a night out?
Guilty as charged. But on a more serious note, it's interesting how even back then they were thinking about the balance between security and convenience.
Exactly. And as we move along the historical timeline, we encounter the Romans, who, as with many things, took locks and keys to a whole new level.
What did they do? Make them out of gold or something?
Well, not gold, but they did start using metal, which was much more durable than wood, and their locks were pretty sophisticated for the time.
Interesting. So stronger and more complex.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing. For the Romans, keys weren't just about function. They were status symbols.
Status symbols. You mean like a fancy car or a designer handbag today?
Exactly. Wealthy Romans would wear their keys on rings, almost like a badge of honor.
Haha, so it's like saying, look at all the stuff I have that needs protecting. Human nature never really changes, does it?
I guess not. But those Roman innovations paved the way for even more exciting advancements in lock technology, especially during the Industrial Revolution.
Ah, the Industrial Revolution, a time of incredible change and innovation. So what happened in the world of locks and keys?
It was like a golden age for locksmiths. Master craftsmen like Robert Barron, Jeremiah Chubb, and the legendary Joseph Bramah emerged.
Those names ring a bell. Weren't they like the rock stars of their time?
They were. Barron, for example, invented the lever tumbler lock in 1778, a design still widely used today.
Wow. And what about Chubb?
Chubb took things a step further in 1818 with his detector lock. It was a marvel of anti-tampering technology.
Clever. So they were really starting to think outside the box, so to speak. And you mentioned Bramah.
Ah, Joseph Bramah. Now, he was a true innovator. His lock was so intricate and precise that he boldly declared it unpickable.
Unpickable. That's a pretty bold claim.
It was. And for decades, it seemed like he was right. Bramah's lock stood proudly in his London shop window, a challenge to anyone who dared to try their luck.
I can imagine the crowds gathering, eager to see if anyone could crack it. So did anyone ever manage to pick Bramah's unpickable lock?
Well, that's where our story takes a dramatic turn. Enter Alfred Charles Hobbs, an American locksmith who traveled to London for the Great Exhibition of 1851.
The Great Exhibition. Wasn't that a massive showcase of innovation from around the world?
It was. And Bramah's lock was one of the star attractions. But Hobbs had other plans.
Oh. What did he do?
He spent 51 hours meticulously studying the lock, carefully manipulating its intricate mechanisms, and finally, after 16 days, he did it. He picked the lock.
I bet that caused quite a stir. The unpickable lock had been picked.
It was a sensation.
Yeah.
Newspapers around the world reported on Hobbs's triumph. It was the David and Goliath story, with the underdog locksmith from America toppling the seemingly invincible creation of a British master.
What a story. It's a reminder that no matter how secure something seems, there's always someone out there trying to figure out how to break it.
Exactly. And in that constant battle between lockmakers and lockpickers, innovation thrives. But before we delve into the more modern side of locks and keys, we should probably take a quick break.
Yeah, let's give our listeners a chance to catch their breath. We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have. But there's so much more to explore. Join us next time as we continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of locks and keys.
So we've seen how Brahma's supposedly unpickable lock was, well, picked. But his work, along with that of other locksmiths like Chubb and Barron, really shaped the world of locks, didn't it?
Absolutely. They laid the foundation for so many of the locks we use today. You know, it's funny, when you really stop and think about it, the variety of locks out there is pretty amazing.
It is, isn't it? We've come a long way from those simple wooden pin locks.
Oh, for sure. But you know, it's interesting. Some of those basic designs are still around today.
Like what?
Well, take the warded lock, for example. It's one of the oldest types of locks, but you can still find them in use.
Oh, yeah, the warded lock, that's the one with those internal obstacles, right?
Right.
Kind of like a maze for the key.
Exactly. And then there's the pin tumbler lock, which is probably the most common type of lock you see today.
Ah, yes, the trusty pin tumbler lock. So simple, yet so effective. I've always wondered how those little pins work.
It's all about precision. Each pin is cut to a specific length, and they have to align perfectly with the grooves on the key for the lock to turn.
It's fascinating how something so small can be so secure. And I guess that basic principle goes all the way back to those ancient Egyptian locks we talked about earlier.
It does. It's amazing how certain fundamental ideas have endured for centuries. But pin tumbler locks aren't the only game in town, of course. There are also wafer tumbler locks.
Wafer tumbler locks, tell me about those.
They use flat, thin tumblers instead of pins. It's a similar concept, but they tend to be more compact.
Interesting. So you'd find those in smaller applications, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have lever tumbler locks, which are known for their durability.
Oh yeah, lever tumbler locks. Those are the ones you often see on fire brigade padlocks and things like that, right?
Exactly. They're built to withstand tough conditions.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a whole range of mechanical locks out there, each with its own strengths and weaknesses.
It's like a whole family of locks, each with its own personality.
I like that analogy.
Mhm.
But, you know, as much as I appreciate the ingenuity of mechanical locks, we can't ignore the digital revolution that's happening in the world of security.
That's true. Technology is changing everything, and locks are no exception.
Right. Electronic locks with their key cards and access codes have become incredibly common. And then there are smart locks, which you can control with your smartphone.
Smart locks. Wow. So you can unlock your door with your phone?
You can. It's pretty amazing. You can even grant temporary access to guests or get notifications when someone enters or exits.
That's incredible. Talk about convenience. But I guess it makes you wonder, what does the future hold for traditional locks in a world that's becoming increasingly digital?
That's a great question. I think there will always be a need for physical security, especially in certain situations.
Like where?
Well, think about safes, vaults, secure storage facilities. Those places need a level of protection that goes beyond digital safeguards.
That makes sense. I mean, some things just need that extra layer of physical security. So maybe we'll see a kind of hybrid approach in the future with traditional locks enhanced by electronic features.
It's definitely a possibility. But, you know, speaking of traditional locks, what about the people who keep them working? The locksmiths. They're the unsung heroes of the security world.
Oh, absolutely. Locksmiths are amazing. They do so much more than just cut keys.
They do. It's a highly skilled profession.
For sure. I mean, they need to understand the intricacies of all these different locking systems. From the simple to the incredibly complex, it's not an easy job.
And it's one that comes with a lot of responsibility. After all, they're entrusted with the security of our homes, businesses, and everything in between.
That's a good point. You really need to trust your locksmith. They're the guardians of our security.
Exactly. And their job is constantly evolving, too, with all the advancements in technology.
You're right. Think about key duplication. It used to be all about tracing and cutting a new key by hand. But now, with electronic key cutting, it's much more precise and efficient.
It's amazing how technology is changing even the most traditional crafts.
It is. So locksmithing, like lockmaking itself, is a blend of time-honored techniques and cutting-edge innovations.
A perfect example of how tradition and technology can work together. But, you know, we've talked a lot about the practical side of locks and keys. I think it's also important to consider their symbolic meaning.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean by that?
Well, locks and keys have always represented more than just physical security. They've also been symbols of power, authority, and even spiritual access.
I see what you mean, like the keys of heaven held by St. Peter in Christian tradition.
Exactly. They symbolize the power to grant entry to the kingdom of heaven,
Yeah.
a powerful image that's been around for centuries.
And in heraldry, keys are often used to symbolize guardianship and responsibility.
Right. It's like they represent the power to protect and control access. And then there's the Palestinian key, which has become a symbol of displacement and the longing for home.
Such a poignant symbol. It's incredible how an object as simple as a key can hold so much meaning. It really speaks to the power of symbolism.
It does. And it makes you wonder how the symbolism of locks and keys might evolve in the future, especially as we become increasingly reliant on digital security.
That's a good question. As our world becomes more and more digital, will those traditional symbols still resonate? Will new symbols emerge? It's something to think about for sure.
It is. But for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground on our journey through the world of locks and keys. We've seen how they've evolved over time, explored the intricate mechanics behind them, and even delved into their symbolic meaning.
It's been quite an adventure. From ancient civilizations to the digital age, the story of locks and keys is a testament to human ingenuity and our enduring quest for security.
And it's a story that's still being written today. As technology continues to advance, who knows what new innovations will emerge in the world of locks and keys.
That's the beauty of it. It's a story that's constantly evolving.
It's interesting, isn't it, how locks and keys really represent that sort of tangible security.
You know, you're right. There is something about that physicality of a lock and key. You can feel it, hear it. It's reassuring.
It is. That click as you turn the key, it's like a little signal that everything's secure.
You don't quite get that same feeling with digital security, do you? Passwords, encryption, it's all a bit, well, invisible.
Exactly. With the physical lock, there's no question. You can see it, touch it, know that it's there protecting your stuff.
I suppose that's why some people are hesitant to fully embrace smart locks and things like that. They want that tangible barrier.
It makes you wonder, though, what's the future hold for traditional locks? Will there always be a place for them in this increasingly digital world?
I think so. Some things just require that extra level of physical security. Well, think about things like safes, vaults, places where you're storing really valuable or sensitive items. Digital security is important, of course, but those places still need those robust physical locks.
You're probably right. It's hard to imagine a world without them completely.
I think what we'll see is a merging of the two. Traditional locks enhanced with electronic features or integrated into larger security systems.
Makes sense. Sort of best of both worlds situation.
Exactly. The physical and digital working together to create even more secure environments.
Well, we've certainly unlocked a wealth of information on this deep dive. From ancient history to modern marvels, who knew locks and keys could be so fascinating?
It's amazing what you discover when you start digging into these everyday objects, isn't it?
It really is. And that's what we're all about here on Tell Me More. Inspiring curiosity, exploring those hidden stories that are all around us.
So to our listeners, if you've enjoyed this journey through the world of locks and keys, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes.
We've got so many more fascinating topics to explore.
From the mundane to the extraordinary, we're here to unlock those stories and share them with you.
So until next time, keep those minds curious, keep asking questions, and may all your locks be secure.